What's up, everybody? Welcome to Lacrosse Now. We're in the final stages of the regular season. This is it. Conference tournaments have begun around the country, which is very exciting. In some places, other places they'll wait another week or so. But it's a great time of year. We've got a full preview for the weekend's games. We're going to run through some of the men's scores. We're going to have a quick pick session for men's, as we want to cover a lot of ground today. And we'll also get into some of the conference tournaments for the women. ACC A10 going on now too.
Yeah, absolutely. But we also have some great guests.
Yes, we do.
We've got Arden Cohen from Notre Dame talking about what they have ahead of them. What do they feel like they have to do to make the tournament? Likely win out here. So every game's a playoff game for the Irish. We also have Emily Sterling, the goalie from Maryland on the women's side, who has been the best goalie in the year so far. She's been terrific. Great conversation with her.
Wow, best goalie of the season, you're saying?
She's a first-team All-American right now.
Okay, all right.
Leads the nation
there with Moreno and company.
Percentage.
Yeah, she's been really good.
She's been terrific.
Yeah, that's why we talked about it on Tuesday. I like Maryland a lot.
I like
them
Maryland
an awful lot here. All right, let's start on the men's side of things. Yeah. And we're going to have to do quick picks today for the men, something we haven't done all year. But
flip it up.
We were looking at the slate of the games. I'm like, we got to cover a lot of ground, so let's get right to it here. Travis kicks things off. Patriot League, Lehigh Loyola.
Lehigh Loyola. So this is a really tough game to pick. Lehigh, despite the fact that they have some losses here down the stretch, has played everybody.
Yeah.
Tough.
A lot of close games.
I feel like, and you could say this, I think, about a lot of teams here so far this year, but they've played so many one-goal games. Though, I like Loyola in a win. I think you flip the script on them. I think the Greyhounds, they need, I've been waiting for Loyola to turn it on, and it hasn't happened yet. And I think this is part of the week they do it. I think they win 10-9. Here's the thing. It's still all in front of Loyola in order not to get the top seed, but they can still be the 2 seed and get a bye into the semifinals with a win and an Army loss. We'll talk about Army BU here in a second. So it's all very tangible. I think the Colgate game, the 1-goal win from a week ago, is a bit of a wake-up call for the Greyhounds of the good kind because they still figured out a way to win. But Bailey Savio has to be better. He was only about 30% last week against Colgate. He's got to be better in that matchup against Sisselberger. Sam Schaefer better in goal, 11 saves in the victory. So I think those are 2 spots to watch. Schaefer needs to continue to do what he's doing. They got to be better at the face-off X. But they've just got so much senior leadership. I have a hard time thinking this Loyola team's going to go down without swinging.
Yeah, this is what we expected from them, I guess.
This is it.
After their slow start to the year, they get the win over Duke early. That was still fairly early. That was one of the shockers of the season. And we're like, wait for it with Loyola because this is what they do. So now is the time to do what they do, and beating Lehigh would be a part of that and a big game in the conference.
Yeah, because they win. They have an opportunity. You don't want to be the 3 or 4 seeds because if you play Navy or Bucknell in the 5 or 6 spots,
watch out.
Don't overlook those teams. That's going to be a really tough quarterfinal. So if you're a top 2 seed, it really puts the leg up. Everybody knows they're going to Boston for the tournament, but at least if you're a 2 seed, you get a bye to the semis.
All right. We'll go back to the Patriot League in a moment.
Yep.
Let's do a brief pivot over to the Big East. We've got Georgetown, Villanova, Friday, 7 p.m. here. I have Georgetown winning by 1. 10-9.
Close game.
I do think it's going to be close. Georgetown's won the last 6 in the series. I forgot about this game last year. Do you remember the first game of the season last year?
It was a destruction.
16-1.
Georgetown embarrassed Villanova.
But the thing is, they played again in the regular season. That was an 8-7 win for Georgetown. They played again in the Big East tournament, 14-12. That was the last time they played. What a weird few games they played last year. This one, who knows? I don't know what's going to – I'm trying to guess, and I feel like I looked at those 3 results. I'm like, I really don't know here. But I do like Georgetown by 1. Nova has 3 1-goal losses this year, or 2. They have 1 to Brown, 1 to Penn, a 3-goal loss to Yale, a 2-goal loss to Denver. They're not playing, I don't think, their best right now. They just beat Marquette 10-8. I thought maybe they would show a little bit better there. But you look at their leadership, and their top 5 scorers are all either graduate students or seniors. They're led in the defense by some leadership as well, some upperclassmen. Check Camizio, a short stick D-midi, 8 ground balls, 4 caused turnovers the last 2 games he's played. And I like that depth that you are going to need against a really good team in Georgetown that can hit you from a few different places. Georgetown, on the other hand, they're very intriguing to me, of course, as they've been really good all year long. Their only loss is to Princeton. They had 22 turnovers in that game. and you look at their stats defensively and how far and away they are better than anybody else in the Big East. 8.08 goals against average. Nova's second in the Big East in defense. 11.17 they give up per game. That's how much better. And Georgetown playing a good schedule has been than everybody else. Will Bowen, Gibson, Smith. Bowen's been awesome for them. What a pickup in the transfer portal or as a graduate student over there too. But I do think that Villanova, they're battle tested. They have experience. They're going to give Georgetown a test. That's what I think is going to happen here. I think Georgetown's going to be just good enough to get it done because I think Georgetown is one of the best teams in the country, and they're going to be able to make the plays down the stretch. But, yeah, it's going to be a one-goal game.
I do think that's been the difference between Maryland and everybody else this year is that Maryland, you walk into these games and you think, well, maybe they give them a test, and they never do. Georgetown has been tested a couple of times this year in different spots.
Yeah.
And they've found ways to win some of these games. I'll be interested to see how Georgetown fares against Villanova because you're right. It's an intriguing game, end of the Big East slate.
At Villanova, too.
Yeah, always can be a tough place to go play. All right, let's go back to the Patriot League now.
Yes.
Army at BU. BU has solidified the top seed. They're in. They're hosting. They are undefeated so far this season. Army needs this win. That's why I'm picking Army.
Oh, you and your desperation.
An upset.
Yep. Travis and his desperation again.
You can't underestimate being desperate. And if there's anybody that's desperate for a win, because Army, you have to be kicking yourself after losing to your rival Navy last weekend at home.
Yeah.
Like they had everything set up for this awesome moment. You have a chance to keep pushing forward to a possible at-large bid. You're building up your resume, and then you drop the ball against your big rival, and that has to hurt. So what better way to get a little bit of redemption, get yourself moving right back in the right direction, than to go up to BU, beat a team that hasn't lost in the Patriot League play so far this year, give yourself a top 2 seed, and at least get a bye into the semifinals of the tournament. I think this is the perfect bounce-back win. I think it's close. I got Army 13-12 over BU.
13-12 over BU. I mean, Army was, top 5? When they lost last week because they had just come off that win over Cornell. Yeah.
Everything felt like it was going in the right direction for them. And then
a rivalry game, man.
Yeah.
I think they get back on track.
You look at the Patriot League entering this week. Lehigh, Loyola, Army, all 5-2. Depending on how things shake out there, somebody's going to end up with the 2 seed, and those 2 games are going to be huge.
Okay, let's go to the Ivy League now, without any further ado. We've talked so much about the Ivy League this year. I'm going to go with Cornell at Princeton. 16-14 Princeton. I wasn't exactly sure about this one. I kind of went back and forth. Princeton coming off that loss against Harvard, I think that might motivate them a little bit. 19-16. I know it's a wild score, 19 goals. That's just kind of the way Princeton will play.
Yeah.
The week before that, 12-10 win over Dartmouth. So I don't know if Princeton has been, we're at the 3rd team in the country before that loss. Yeah. I don't know if they've been acting like it. We talked earlier in the season about Rutgers acting like the 3rd team in the country. Yeah, Princeton was getting some wins, but not necessarily blowing people out. So, yeah, they go up against Harvard, and Kyle Mullen for Harvard, 18 saves, and that's been part of the key to Harvard's success in their goalie play. When he is on, they often win. Eric Peters, Princeton's goalie, made 11 saves, 19 goals allowed in that game. And, you look at double-digit saves, like, oh, that's great. That's the 2nd worst game of the year. The other one was...
when you give up 19.
Yeah, the other one was that wild one against Penn, where it was the 21-20 final there. So that was the other game. So he didn't play very well, and they lost 19-16 in a close one. So you wonder if you have Princeton right against a goalie that's not necessarily hot. And I go now to Cornell, and they don't have a hot goalie. They on the defensive end, they've got Gavin Adler. He's great. He'll probably try to lock down Chris Brown. But also Chris Brown has shown his ability to be deferential at times. 28 goals, 3 assists this year. He had 7 assists against Boston University. He did not score a goal in that game. He only shot 4 times. So I like that from him. If Adler's trying to shut him off and they're trying to focus around Brown, he can get it to some other sources. And I like that a lot for Princeton to be able to hit Cornell from a lot of different angles. And I don't know if Cornell's going to be able just to keep up. I expect a bounce-back game from Peters in this for Princeton, and he'll be able to make some stops against a very talented attack line for Cornell here. So I like Princeton 16-14.
I think this is an elimination game for Cornell in terms of not only the Ivy League tournament, but possibly with the NCAAs. I think this is the one, if they are going to be an at-large team in the NCAAs, I think they have to win this one. I agree with you, though. One of the great things about Princeton is that they don't just have a guy. It's their offensive depth that beats you. It's not that they have one guy who's the Michael Sowers that runs the show. It's that they've got Slusher and Brown. They got a bunch of guys that can beat you.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think the offense generally will run through Brown, but I think he's done a great job of this year of being able to not have to be the guy that has to score 3 goals or what have you. I think that BU game is an example of that. That was one of their tougher games of the year, actually, scoring-wise, a little bit lower for them. So I like that differential motive that he's been able to do.
All right, so winner of that game clinches a spot in the Ivy League tournament because they would get to 4-2. If Brown beats Dartmouth, they also clinch a spot in the Ivy League tournament. Who saw that coming like 4 weeks ago?
I know.
But here we are. And you know what? I was so tempted to go, if anything crazy was going to happen, everything we see in the Ivy League, maybe this is going to be the game that Dartmouth shocks Brown. I don't see it happening. Brown has everything to play for. They looked really sharp earlier this week against Bryant as they finished off winning the Ocean State Cup. So a rivalry game there, got up for it. They know that this is it. It's also at Brown, which I think is a plus. If you had to go to Dartmouth, maybe it's a different story. I like Brown 15-12. I will say, though, if you watch this game, I almost guarantee you that Dartmouth is going to get up early.
They'll get an early lead.
It's going to be a first-half Dartmouth lead. Yep. Everyone's going to go, oh, no, here we go. And then Brown's going to figure it out. That's what I'm predicting here. But I do think Brown wins 15-12. I like the Bears.
Desperate teams. Brown's been playing like as if they're they're in the playoffs for a few weeks now.
And they've known it. They've known it. These games against the Yale and Penn, they knew they had to win them if they weren't going to have a chance, and they've done it.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice for Dartmouth after they've competed a lot here to be able to finish off with a big win in a big spot. We'll see if they can do it. I'm going to be watching that game for sure.
I will say Dartmouth probably the best winless team in conference play of any team in the country.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. We'll go back to the Ivy League in a moment. Let's pivot to the Big Ten now.
Yeah.
Michigan, Ohio State, the rematch. Here we go.
Saw it last week.
We just saw it last week, a 14-12 win for Ohio State. I'm flipping the script.
Oh.
I've got Michigan winning this 14-12 over the Buckeyes. You watch that game. If you took a look at it, it was 6-0 Ohio State early. And then something clicked for Michigan after that. They beat them the rest of the game. You look at the final score, it was 14-12 Ohio State. Michigan evened the scales after that. And I think for them, almost a confidence builder, if you will. Michigan had 7 straight losses now. They're a 7-game losing streak. They started this year 7-0. And, of course, everyone's like, oh, it's fool's gold. They're not playing the best competition. They had 1-goal losses to Penn State, 1-goal loss to Rutgers. So it's not like they've been bad at any stretch of the imagination this year. They've just come up on the wrong side of some things. So I do think Michigan is going to be able to come back the next week and beat Ohio State. There was a lot And the Buckeyes at Buckeye Stadium, it was all the alumni were in town. It was a celebration. So no wonder Ohio State got off to that start. You go into the horseshoe and you're intimidated. Like, there's a lot of factors there. This is different. This is the Big Ten tournament. Michigan trying to play for their life. And Ohio State is also going to try to do the same thing. But I do think Michigan, the second time around, the way they played that second half, I think that was more than even. They played them even for the most part. Then something else that I looked at that I think should even out too, and I think this is a part of the energy that was in the stadium, ground balls in that game. Ohio State had 42 of them. Michigan had 26. And 8 of those of each team were won by the faceoff man. So that was the faceoff guy winning his own ground ball. So that's the differential. Sometimes you look at the ground ball stat, and that can be a little misleading because the faceoff guy will win them all to himself. In this case, that's about a 16, I think, number difference between the two. So I think that's a stat that they'll look at Michigan and say, hey, we didn't win the hustle plays. We win the hustle plays. We win that game despite being down 6-0. And that's, I think, an easy thing that you can fix, in a short amount of time and be able to go get those ground balls. So I think Michigan flips the script and wins this weekend.
Do you think the Big Ten's thinking, well, we had the 4-team conference tournament, and that didn't work out because we had a 5th team that got let out. And now you're looking at it, if Michigan does knock off Ohio State, who's already sitting there on the bubble, is certainly sitting on the bubble of a possible at-large berth, right?
Yeah, I mean, their wins are nice. They're over
the Harvard wins
Notre
really
Dame
good.
And Harvard, two tournament teams at that, but those are their wins.
But
Ohio State.
You will say, those are teams they're competing with for likely these last couple at-large berths.
Right, and judging by the conference that Harvard plays in and the fact that someone's got to get in from the ACC, and Notre Dame could be the hottest team in the country.
They
going
don't have to get in from the ACC.
I mean, somebody's got to make
they're going to get
There
in.
should be 2 teams at the end of all of this.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame wants to be that team, as we're going to talk to Arden Cohen in a few minutes here. I think that this is going to be kind of a wild scenario in the Big Ten in which Michigan can advance, and Ohio State will be tiptoeing a little bit maybe towards that outside of the bubble.
Yeah, that's so big game there.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Let's go back to the Ivy League, because
Yes.
this is just fascinating. Once again, we've got, 5 teams tied at 3-2. Penn obviously done. They're at 3-3. They're just sitting, waiting, trying to figure out if they are going to have a chance. By the way, what a win for them, coming from behind against St. Joe's earlier this week. Shout out to the Hawks. They're the real deal. Look out for them in the NEC tournament. Anyway, back to the Ivy League. We got Harvard at Yale. Once again, 2 3-2 teams. We mentioned this last week. Harvard has been terrific at home. They won again this past weekend against Princeton. This game, though, is on the road at Yale. And of all the teams in the Ivy League that I think I have the most confidence in after everything we've seen this year from everybody, I still think it's Yale. I think they've got guys who have gotten it done at different levels, at higher levels late into May, and so I'm going to put my confidence in Yale. I think it's a good game, but I got the Eli's winning 14-12. Harvard's just been so much better at home. They've been such a good story, but I've got too much faith in Matt Brandow. Leo Johnson has been terrific as a first year. It just feels like, I know they've been up and down at times. It just feels like they've got too much talent and they're too consistent across the board to not make the tournament.
Yeah, we talked about the Harvard goalie Kyle Mullen and the 18 saves he made against Princeton in that win. That's a tough performance to follow that up against the Yale team that, as we know, they can go in there and shoot the lights out.
I mean, we saw what they did at BU earlier
we saw what they did already at BU. So that's a tall task for Harvard. And like you said, I think Yale might start showing their quality here very soon. And we know them maybe as that championship weekend contender.
I just look at that talent that they have, and I just feel like if there's anybody that could possibly, if they get it all going in the right direction, they get hot. If there's anybody who could challenge Maryland, it feels like it could be Yale.
All right, let's go to the ACC now. We'll go with Notre Dame at Syracuse, and this one, not much of a question in my mind. 16-9. I have Notre Dame. I think this is going to be a little bit closer just because it's in the Carrier Dome after Notre Dame.
R.I.P. to Carrier.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. My apologies.
Well, I think it's still technically the Carrier Dome for now.
Yeah.
Soon to no longer be the Carrier Dome.
Everyone relax. It's the name of a building, all right? Who cares? It's a place.
JRA Wireless?
It's not a person that's changing their name. It's the name of a building. That's notwithstanding. I think Notre Dame wins this 16-9. They beat them 22-6 a couple weeks ago, back on the 2nd of April. Beat them 18-11 last year inside the Dome. And I just think Notre Dame's hot. 4 straight wins, and they figured out face-offs for the most part. They got to win half of them, and Will Lynch is up to 50%. I went back and looked. I didn't realize in the Duke game, they went 19 of 35 at the X. And then against North Carolina, 13 of 20. So they have figured that was the big question mark.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, Notre Dame can't win a face-off yet. They're still winning some games. And now just win half of them. And Notre Dame's fine. So I think that's been a big thing for them in terms of getting better as the season gone on. And that's something they figured out along the way, too.
Give a lot of credit to that face-off unit and the staff for figuring it out.
Yeah.
Because that's something, like, you can figure it out. Like, even against dominant face-off guys, there's ways you can use wings. There's ways to figure it out, and credit them for doing the work and figuring it out, because they knew we're not making it to May if we're winning 20% or 25%
right.
of the X.
You couldn't have an empty category. Right. You couldn't have that big of a weakness and find yourself making moves in the tournament or even making the tournament at that point for them.
But 40, 45%, 50%, you're good.
They don't have to win them all.
Right, exactly. You just can't give them every possession.
Right.
So
you give that offense enough possessions, they're going to score.
Right,
and I think that's what we've seen all year long. And you give the defense, I think, some rest on top of that, and they can be maybe one of the best in the country.
Another rematch in the ACC. Carolina at Duke. This obviously happened Final Four weekend, and it was Duke that got the best of lacrosse rivalry, and then Carolina flipped the script on the basketball court. I don't see Duke losing this game. North Carolina it feels like they plateaued the midway point of the year, and just offensively they haven't been able to figure it out since. Like it felt like maybe they could do it, maybe they could put some pieces around Chris Gray with all he's doing. I just don't see it. Keep an eye on Chris Gray's points, by the way. He's approaching that all-time points. I think he needs 6 in order to get to 500 or to 400. Or
this could be it.
So this could be this could be the final game of the season here against Duke. But I got the Blue Devils 14-8. They won 15-6 in that first meeting. Duke's playing for their lives too. They got this one and then Notre Dame next week. If Notre Dame Duke win, that very well could be a playoff spot. It could be like a play-in game for the NCAA tournament next week. So I think Duke cold serves. I think we're going to have a good one, Notre Dame and Duke next week.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good pick, Travis. Good work.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we talked earlier about Notre Dame. Arden Cohen, a big part of that defense that's been so strong this year. Travis caught up with him this week to talk about Notre Dame and their run they've been making this part of the season.
So we have Notre Dame's Arden Cohen joining us now. Arden, your defense held North Carolina to just 5 goals this past Thursday. Just defensively, that end of the field, how does this unit feel?
I think great. I mean, with newly found talent, Jason Reynolds and Matt Douglas, the defense has really been coming together. We have the opportunity to kind of play against some of the best players in the league every day during practice versus our scout team. So I think that we're really kind of getting in the swing of things and are confident heading into the game against Syracuse this weekend.
You mentioned the game against Cuse. You finish up against Duke. 2 more tough ones that you guys probably feel like you need to win in order to get to what you ultimately want to do, and what that is playing deep into May. How do you guys look at these last 2 games here in the regular season and what's in front of you?
Yeah, so I think we're extremely excited and confident to be headed up against Syracuse this weekend. We know that we have to prove ourselves every game, and we cannot take a step back. Every practice, we kind of go in it with a goal of getting better and pushing ourselves every day. And I think that'll show up on Sunday.
You mentioned some of the guys you go up against every day in practice, and you got a couple of pretty good ones in the Kavanaugh brothers there. What's it like to face them when it's like ones v ones?
Yeah, those 2 are extremely quick. Fortunately, we do a lot of ones one-on-one, so I can continue kind of getting better. But yeah, it's definitely a tough matchup in practice. That's for sure.
You've obviously faced some of the best attackmen in the country over your time there at Notre Dame due to the schedule and the toughness in which you guys play. Not even just like a particular attackman, but like what's your favorite attack style to go against? Do you like it like the small, quick guys? Do you want to have like the big guy you're able to body up? Like who do you like fighting?
I'd say I definitely prefer kind of the bigger attackmen. I like a little bit of contact and being able to get my hands on guys. And it's something I guess I've been trying to work on a little bit, keeping up with some of the quicker guys as well.
Well, you mean you have the Kavanaughs you can practice against, right?
Of course, a lot of practice with those two. That's for sure. And we have some of the guys on the scout team as well, like Emmett Barger, like Mike Hawkins. Those guys are super quick and explosive. So just having the chance to go up against those guys basically every day is really beneficial.
Outside of the guys in your own team, who's been your favorite challenge as like a guy you want to face one-on-one?
I mean, I don't want to call anyone out here. I mean, everybody I've guarded this year has kind of had their own skill set. But this weekend, I'm looking forward to guarding Tucker Dordovic. He's a really great player and a great kid. So I'm excited for that matchup.
After a game, when especially you face like a guy like a Chris Gray or Logan Wisnauskas, somebody like that, like what's the relationship after? Is it like one of those, like you go at each other for 60 minutes, then you pat yourselves on the back and say, you know what, that was a fun one?
For sure. I think there's a lot of respect involved. We know the amount of hard work that kind of goes into the day-to-day. And I definitely respect those guys tremendously. Chris Gray is a great player. And just having kind of the opportunity to go against him was great.
Do you have a favorite check?
The Coach Burns school of defense, now ruled over by Coach Wildner, says no checks at all. But I definitely like kind of the, just like the classic poke check.
So, I mean, in film, if you throw one and you miss, what's the reaction in the room?
Yeah, so we actually have a newly implemented rule where if you throw kind of some sort of it's non-kosher check, it's about 10 push-ups. 10 push-ups if you miss.
And are those done in practice or are those done in the film session?
done right away in practice, but oftentimes they are exposed during the film session.
I mean, obviously, you're part of a defensive unit that over your time has been one of the best in the country, but you look at your stats, and you've got nearly 60 career games, and you don't have one collegiate point. Does that bother you?
Oh, it bothers me. It keeps me up at night, but I know I get a lot of chirps from my teammates about that, but hopefully I can change that over the next couple of games.
What's been the closest? Because like sometimes there's like a long pass that leads to an assist. Like what's been the closest you've been?
The closest I've ever been was freshman year against Ohio State. I remember running down the field. I had a long pole, whacking away. And unfortunately, it was so poor of a shot that they actually called it a pass, and we went back the other way. I remember huffing and puffing, running back on defense, but just knowing that I was going to hear it for the next couple of days. So that was that.
You know what? I feel like it's always like something freshman year that is probably your best chance, and you missed it. And you're like, and then like you're like, oh no, I'll get another one of those, and then you never do.
Yeah, nothing close to that, but hopefully that'll change.
You guys looking ahead here the rest of the way, what did you figure out from the tough schedule that you guys faced early on, where you took some of those early losses, that it feels like you've maybe figured out here in the last, I think you've won 4 in a row now?
Yeah, I think headed into the season, you're always extremely confident. But kind of having a few early losses definitely humbles you a little bit. And, you look within yourself, coach calls it egoless clarity, and kind of like figuring out what you need to do differently, what you can do better for the team, especially as a fifth year, you don't want to let these guys down. You don't want to have a losing season. So kind of keeping that in mind and working every day hard in practice to continue getting better is what we kind of keep at the forefront.
You put on that kind of iconic golden dome every week, and I have to there are a lot of programs that have a lot of tradition, but that in Notre Dame is a special one. Now that you're kind of coming to the end here, like what do you think back on of the opportunity you've had to wear that helmet and wear that jersey throughout your career? Yeah,
I mean, this was definitely an opportunity of a lifetime, and I've made some amazing friends. And it's just been an absolute privilege and honor to kind of put on that gold every day and go to battle with my best friends. So it's been an awesome experience. I couldn't have asked for a better one.
What's been the coolest part of just being an athlete at Notre Dame, not even just being the lacrosse player?
I definitely just say the facilities. We have great protein stations, great food stations. And just coming to the locker room every day, having a place to kind of chill, hang out, and shoot the stuff with some of your boys all day long is something that I'm definitely going to miss when I graduate next year.
For sure. All right, I'll leave you on kind of a fun one. You're a guy. I believe you lived in New York City, but you went to school there in Darien, one of the great high school programs in Connecticut. So you kind of split the pizza war there. Connecticut pizza or New York City?
I definitely say New York City pizza. But the Darien bacon, egg, and cheese is actually no one can compete with that. No one can compete with that for sure.
You're making both places very happy right now,
Good.
Arden.
I hope so.
Hey, we appreciate the time. Good luck here the rest of the way. Looking forward to seeing you guys in action on Sunday against Syracuse. Good luck, and we'll talk sometime down the road.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me online. Hope you have a good one.
So Arden Cohen, keep an eye on him with the game against Syracuse here this weekend. Sunday in the Dome, so a Sunday afternoon action.
Yeah, be a good game to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Syracuse will make a run at some point. I don't know when in that game, but they'll try to make something interesting.
Well, they didn't the first time. I don't know. Notre Dame's had their number.
I think that this group for Syracuse, for some reason, they don't have it. They've got a lot of talent. They just don't have it for some reason. And I don't know why. And I think that's maybe a question that Gary Gate, Dave Petromalo have to talk about in the offseason. They got to figure out how to get it because I don't think they have it.
Turning the page to the Joey Spallina era.
Maybe that very well could be the page that they turn.
Then it's something that they may need to happen. All right, let's speak of Syracuse. Let's go ACC women.
Yeah.
A team that does have it, the Syracuse women. They kick off the tournament against Virginia here this weekend. We were talking about this on Tuesday when we were talking with Emily Harashuk from Syracuse. Tournament for the ACC on the women's side is interesting. We already had the play-in game, and credit to Pitt, by the way, for not only in their first season having a heck of a year, but they win an ACC tournament game in their first year in program history. I don't know if anybody saw that coming. Now they get the pleasure of playing North Carolina on Friday. So,
yeah, they do. I think like Louisville, not a bad team this year by any stretch, and I think that was a great win for Pittsburgh. And what Emily Boissonneau has done with that program in their first year in the ACC says a lot. And that's a tough act to follow if you're Clemson, by the way.
Yes.
So if you're Clemson and you're trying to get things going, Pittsburgh's a great blueprint to follow. Get some transfers in there. Do that.
For sure. So we have the ACC tournament. If you're watching this, you can see them on the screen. We got Carolina, Pitt, noon Friday, 2:30 Duke and Notre Dame, BC, Virginia Tech at 5, Syracuse, Virginia at 7:30. What game are you most intrigued by?
I'm looking ahead. So I think that you go to those last two games on Friday. You got BC and you got Syracuse that I think are going to win those games. Virginia, they played a tough schedule this year. They just haven't been able to win. So I think that those are games that BC is going to win, Syracuse is going to win. The Syracuse-BC matchup, I think, as you know, is going to be incredible. It'd be like the third, like last year they played 4 times, including the final. They played twice in the regular season, once in the tournament as well. Of course, the final won 16-10 by BC. Just really interesting how they've had all these different matchups over the last 2 years. The one thing that needs to happen here. So, of course, you probably watched Syracuse BC a couple weeks ago or last week, and that was a good game. Syracuse lost, by 2?
Yeah.
It was like 14-12? 14-12 or something like that. Don't have that written down for some reason. But I did look through all those stats. I watched the game, and everything was pretty even for the most part. From goaltending to scoring, even Charlotte North was somewhat squelched, if you will, for her. I think she had a hat trick. But you look at what has to happen here. Syracuse has to play defense without fouling. That is the biggest key to this game, I think, for a lot of people against BC.
Yeah.
BC went 4 for 8 free position goals-wise, and North a big part of that.
One of the best teams in the country.
They're one of the best at that. So if Syracuse can play defense without letting BC on the 8-meter, they win this game. Hands down. And you can play the same game they played a week ago. They win this game if if you want to boil it down to a stat, if BC has fewer free position opportunities than Syracuse. So they have to be able to play defense without fouling. They've got some good players back there. Katie Goodale has been good as a sophomore. Sarah Cooper as well. They have the talent to do it on the defensive end. Just do it without fouling. Because everything else, to me, right now is a wash between those two teams. That's the game I'm watching, and that's the stat I'm watching.
That second semifinal, if it is BC-Syracuse, could be really intriguing. I am also interested to see if Carolina and Duke play again. The way that first game went, I think it went exactly according to plan for North Carolina, but I was a little surprised that Duke wasn't able to make it closer. And I would be really interested, neutral site, those same two teams, not like only I think it would technically be 2 weeks removed. I don't know, and I don't think Duke wins, but I do think it's a much better game. I don't know if Carolina dominates them the same way they did the first time.
I think North Carolina dominates this entire tournament.
Whole tournament.
Wow. I don't think North Carolina isn't as dominant as they were last year. They've had some closer games this time around, but I think they're still a lot better than everybody else, and they will continue to cruise their way through 2 championship weekend to the final once again. I don't know if they're going to win it just now, but I think they're going to dominate this tournament.
Okay.
And watch that first game. Don't forget, Notre Dame beat Duke in that opening round last year. And Notre Dame, they've got a lot of talent over there. So and they've played some games, they've lost some games, but they're still Notre Dame, and they could very well beat Duke. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but that's going to be very close. And that is what ended, Duke's run in the tournament last year in the ACCs.
Yeah. So keep an eye on it.
So that first round, don't say that's over yet.
Of the first round, I think that's the game to watch.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm interested Virginia-Syracuse. Maybe like Virginia turns some things on after all the experiences they've had this year. I think that should be intriguing. But yeah, I think you're right. That's the game to watch in the first round. There's 2 games this weekend, so you can have. There's 2.
Right, 2 rounds. By the way, in case you weren't with us, new format this year. The 2 teams left for the finals who win in the semifinals, they move on. They'll play in the championship next weekend at the site of the higher seed. So likely Carolina, or I guess it could probably be Carolina, BC, or Syracuse that host that thing.
Yeah, it could. Any one of those teams, absolutely. Anyway. So we also got Atlantic 10 going on here, Trav.
Yeah, so I'm on the call for the Atlantic 10 tournament on ESPN+. The semifinals are set. If you're watching us or listening on Thursday, we had the quarterfinals, and we've got the top 4 seeds left. The semifinals are really interesting. We got 2 top 20 teams that are the top two seeds, UMass and Richmond. Both are super talented. Both have a bunch of transfers from other major programs that have come in and infused some talent. Keep an eye on that first semifinal between UMass and Davidson. The 4-seed Davidson just last week had a 3-goal lead on UMass at halftime. And UMass stormed back in the second half, ended up winning 13-11. So keep an eye on that. And some redemption on the line for Richmond against St. Joe's. Richmond saw their season end at the hands of the Hawks last year in the semifinals. The Hawks have now been to 6 consecutive Atlantic 10 semifinals, and so an opportunity for Richmond to get some redemption and take down the Hawks. The Hawks led by Alex Cahoe, a former Maryland goalie who has put together a terrific staff there for the Hawks. Really been building this program up, and so that should be a terrific game as well. We should have 2 really good semifinals, and then depending on what that championship looks like, I mean, both UMass and Richmond have been battle-tested throughout the non-conference. Both have been in the top 25 for a majority of the season. So whoever comes out of this league is going to be a team to be reckoned with in the early rounds of the NCAA tournament. So it should be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, UMass with a win over Vanderbilt this year, a non-conference. Richmond beating Stanford as well. So those are 2 nice wins for them. Like you said, they've tested themselves. They're 2 top 25 teams, and maybe you could see both in the tournament possibly here.
Yeah.
The way that the women's, the bigger field, of course, than the men's. So there's more teams that get in, and UMass and Richmond, 2 teams that maybe could pick off somebody. Who knows in that first round?
Super talented. And we saw Lauren Figueroa from St. Joe's, who's the conference's Offensive Player of the Year today. She went off for 5 points in the quarterfinal. She's a tremendous talent. St. Joe's really spreads it out, likes to load up everybody behind the cage, give their attackers and midfielders a lot of room in front to dodge. And that proved to be successful today against George Washington in their quarterfinal. So it's terrific lacrosse we saw in the first day, and really looking forward to the semifinals. Championship, the Atlantic 10, is Sunday afternoon at noon on ESPN+. So if you're looking for something to watch throughout the weekend, along with all the other lacrosse we have.
Yeah, we have plenty of options available.
Ones.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, Maryland's got Michigan, right, on the women's side of things?
Yeah, they've already secured the top seed in the regular season championship for the Big Ten, but they've got one more here to close before Big Ten tournament next weekend.
Okay, yeah, and they've boasted, and we talked about it at length, and I told everybody, I think Maryland's the second best team in the country. You look at them top to bottom, they have it, and they also have a goalie that has been consistently maybe the best in the country. Travis just said it. I put her up there with Taylor Moreno and that tier of things at the same time, but he was able to catch up with her earlier this week, too.
So we're now joined by Maryland's Emily Sterling. Emily, you guys have been on a roll coming off a big win over Northwestern this past weekend. Sum up what winning there at home on Saturday meant for you guys as a program.
I think this whole program this whole year has just been about the Terps, just trying to figure out where we are and like what we want to show everybody and what we're capable of. So I think this win just really instilled confidence in all of us and gave us that ability to show everybody what we're all about and that we're here to compete.
You talk about this program, and we've been joking about it throughout most of the year. Like, it's not often that Maryland women's lacrosse is kind of thought about as like down a little bit, but you guys, it felt like all year have been feeling like you have to prove that you are one of those top teams in the country. Is that how you guys have felt internally too?
No, I honestly don't think that we've had to prove anything to anybody but ourselves. I mean, we know how much work we're putting in every single day. We know how the energy is out on the fields, out at practice, and all the off time, all the off hours that we all put in, and how dedicated we are all to this team. So we really try not to pay attention to like any outside media that's talking about, oh, is Maryland this, is Maryland that. Like, we've always been here and we're here to stay, and we're just ready to just show everybody that hard work that we have put forward, but not necessarily proving it to anyone, just showcasing what we know we're able to do.
Well, you've been locked in lately. 4 of your last 5 games, you've got double-digit saves. For you just personally, what has felt right for you? I mean, really, it's been all year, but especially here in this Big Ten stretch.
I think we're just clicking as a team. I mean, this is like one of the closest I felt our team has ever been. We all just trust each other out there, and we know what we go into a game knowing what we want to be able to give up and what looks we want to show the opposing offense. So being able to execute that, and my defenders make my job so easy by doing that and like adhering to that plan. So they're giving up those shots that I know I can make an easy save on.
Yeah, let them do the work and just, give me something that I can see the entire way in, right?
Exactly.
Works out well. The loss to JMU at home, I think surprised a lot of people. You guys were probably surprised too. What have you guys learned since? Because it felt like that was like maybe a little kick in the rear for everybody, for you guys to turn it around.
It was definitely a learning moment for us. I mean, right after that loss, we came right back out of practice and we were like, okay, this just happened. It's time for us to refocus and really look at what we want to accomplish this year and like where we want to take it, because the decision's really ours with what happens with this season, and we're in complete control of that. So using that loss to help motivate us and like kind of recenter us and like focus where we want to go and like where we see our team going throughout the rest of this spring, we definitely used that part almost like to our advantage, using that loss, and like has definitely recentered us and like definitely motivated us to like perform a little better, put in a little extra time.
Obviously, you joined this Maryland program when Megan Taylor was on her way out, one of not only the best goalies to play there at Maryland, but I mean, she won the Tewaaraton, only goalie ever to do that. What was it like to step there on campus after she had left such a legacy?
I mean, I grew up just admiring her and obviously looking up to her as a younger female goalie. I think she's just such an inspiration and still is such an inspiration, not only to the position, but also to the sport. And I mean, I like have a close relationship with her now. She comes and works with us at practice sometimes. I'm always like texting questions off of her. And I still like look up to her, even though she's like not necessarily physically at the school anymore. But moving into this position, I didn't necessarily feel any pressure. It was more just I was honored to be the person that our coaches looked at to fill those shoes, because you just had the best goalie pretty much in college lacrosse move from those steps. And now they were looking at me to fill that spot. And I just couldn't think of like any higher of an honor for myself moving in to my freshman year of college.
Yeah, and obviously your freshman year was cut a little short, but did you learn something from like having kind of almost the false start to that 2020 season that you kind of took over when, you've been pretty much the starter in 2021 and 22?
Yeah, definitely. So that 2020 season, I was just coming off of an ACL injury. I had rehabbed throughout the winter and I was cleared just a couple weeks before our season started. So I was still recovering from that. I was like literally just playing my first like college lacrosse practices throughout that shortened 2020 season. And when that season got canceled, I definitely, with that little taste of what college lacrosse, Division I college lacrosse is like, I definitely took it home with me and was like, okay, now I can reevaluate myself, look at where I am, what I need to do to improve myself, to be better, so I can be a better asset within this Maryland team.
You read your bio on the Maryland website, and it talks about why you chose Maryland, and I think you listed off everything, including the cafeteria food. Tell people more about just what was it about Maryland and the program and the atmosphere there that drew you to make it kind of almost seems like it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, it definitely was a no-brainer. I mean, I think anybody that's even remotely like affiliated or is in the lacrosse world has heard about the program of Maryland lacrosse, the culture of it and the environment of it. And I can assure you that everything that you've heard is true. And it's the best place to play lacrosse. Honestly, the environment is awesome. Your alums are constantly around. They're always reaching out to you. They're on the sidelines of the games. They're there on the sideline after the games, like hugging you, high-fiving you, telling you how proud they are of you. And that's just like an amazing environment. And then plus that, your coaches are some of the most supportive and like most successful coaches in the sport, which just, it really is like a family network of 40 plus girls, plus the alums on top of that. And it just is an amazing environment that you just want to be around constantly, which then on the field just translates to wanting to be the best for everybody around you.
For sure. Does it come with some responsibility, too, to want to be one of the best teams in the country every year, knowing what has come before you?
It definitely does. I mean, we talk about it all the time. You're not just going to win because you're on Maryland. Like, there's a lot more that goes behind that. And that includes, like I said before, putting in those off hours, putting in those practice hours, working harder than the person next to you just to make them better. And so it's not just because you play for Maryland that you're going to succeed. And that's something we highlight on a lot. Like, it's the hours of practice that you put behind that. It's how much you want to succeed for the person next to you.
The other thing I learned from reading your bio on the website is you're a big fan of magic. Is that true?
I especially like over COVID, I was like, I really like magic. And like a little bit throughout high school, I did get into some magic tricks. I have a few, but not too much.
What's your best trick? Like, what was the one that impressed the most people?
Just some easy card tricks. I thought it was fascinating when I was younger, and I was like, I need to learn how to do that.
So, like, could you, like, pick out somebody's card in a deck? Like, what are we talking about here?
Oh, easily. I could do a lot of card tricks. I can't describe any of them without giving any of my secrets away, but
Of course, well, that's the magician's code, right? You can't devolve your tricks. Exactly. When you guys back on the field, you guys looking ahead to obviously one more week here, the regular season, and then the conference tournament. For you guys to make the run that you want to make here when we look ahead to May, what do you guys need to keep up?
I think just continuing to focus on us. I think that's a strength of Maryland lacrosse, is just we're only worried about ourselves. We can't control anything outside of ourselves, but everything that involves us, we have a say in, and how we execute it and how we perform in that moment. So I think just continuously like going to practice, putting in that work, making each other better, and just uplifting each other, just like keeping our focuses set and like knowing what our goals are and just figuring out how to reach those goals is just going to be the most important thing.
Well, Emily, you guys have been fun to watch so far this year. Good luck the rest of the way. We can't wait to see how you guys compete here the final week of the regular season and on into the Big Ten tournament. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Great to catch up with Emily Sterling. Good luck to the Terps as they finish off the season. And Big Ten tournament, if it's Northwestern Maryland again, neutral site would be at Rutgers.
Watch out.
That should be another game to watch if we get that again moving forward to next weekend.
Fun time of year. Everything we've been talking about, now is the time for a lot of these teams. It's now or never in a lot of cases.
Speaking of fun, we got 2 CAA games on LSN this weekend on the men's side, and there could be some fireworks. We got Drexel UMass on Friday, Hofstra Towson on Saturday. Also Saturday, you've got Delaware and Fairfield. The only thing we know is that Towson's in the CAA tournament.
Okay.
We don't know anything else.
We don't know anything else.
Don't know anything else. So, a lot to play for in those 3 games. So, if you want, you want chaos?
Just watch lacrosse this weekend.
Watch it all.
Anywhere, anytime. Doesn't matter the matchup. I mean, whatever you want to watch. Be flipping around, get ready, get your browsers going, and let those things rock.
It already started. That St. Joe's Penn game on Tuesday, I was riveted.
Yeah, that felt like, I don't know what it felt like, but it felt like it was tournament time already, you know, in one way or another. So, because that could be a matchup. I don't know. You know, that feels like that's something that could happen in the first round.
We'll talk about it next week. The NEC championship, can St. Joe's finally do it?
I know.
Every year.
Every year. Yeah, every year they're there, but they just aren't able to get the job done when it all comes down to it. Bryant's up there.
And Bryant's got Marco Rourke.
Yeah.
And NEC tournament, I'm excited for.
This is what it's all about.
Anyway, we got stories galore.
Yes, we do. As we finish up April, we'll have our show on Tuesday. It'll be on the precipice of May. Well, it will be May.
It will be May.
It's gonna be May.
Sunday.
It's gonna be May. It will. Okay, that's enough.
We need to end.
We're done now with the show.
We'll see you later.